Hey everyone, this is Francesco Abbruzzino with the Uncensored Report. So I've been doing a lot of watching, and I've been watching the Oliver Stone Untold Story, Untold History of the United States, and it's a series which he started basically because he didn't like how his kids were being taught in school the history that was not true, and you learn that a lot. A lot of people put history the way they want it perceived out there. You're seeing a lot of history books being changed right now because they don't reflect the ideology of whichever leaders are in charge at the time. A good example of history is North Korea. Their history books reflect that we invaded North Korea, that they beat us back and won the war. Well, the conflict, it wasn't really a war, on our books, I guess. But that's not true. They invaded the South, and we fought them back. It's a draw. We're still legally at war. We got them. What happened is we were pushing them up so much towards the Chinese line. The Chinese got pissed off and came in and pushed us all down, and we decided, okay, the 38th parallel, that's where we're going to settle. History, even with Truman, where he could have, by all means, what all indicators are that he did not have to drop the nuclear bomb. The only reason he did drop the bomb on Hiroshima is to basically illustrate the power of the United States. And that's what sparked this whole nuclear drive, this nuclear war, build up your munitions, and put the global world on this unstable track that we've been on for years. And basically, the Japanese were ready to throw their arms up. They just wanted their emperor to stay in place. And Truman was like, no, unconditional surrender. And guess what? After we dropped the nuclear bombs, the emperor stayed in place. We let him stay in place. We didn't really have to go to that level. And it always amazes me when I reflect back on what I was taught in history, primarily in high school. College, you didn't really take too much history with my 4 years, but how much different it is than what really occurred. So, but in there, it got me thinking, because I was watching the part on Kennedy, and it talked about how the CIA and the intelligence community was upset with him, along with a lot of other people, and they were upset with him primarily at Bay of Pigs. That started all off because he didn't send in back support to the CIA plan there. And then it just grew, and there were some issues just a couple days prior to his death that really reached a peak. And if you have a chance, reach series number 6 in season 1 of Oliver Stone's Untold History, and you'll see where they talk about JFK and how he charted the course for America for decades to come, how he finally stood up to his generals and who were trying to dictate wars, trying to push them into going into Laos and pushing to further extend the Vietnam conflict. Because when he first took office, there was only a couple advisors, and that blew up to a few thousand advisors. I always love how they're called advisors. And I told one person, me being in the military, and I was talking to someone that's just a book guy, one of these smart asses out there, never served any time in the military, but they had mom and dad silver spoon them through college. And he was trying to tell me that the advisors are just there advising. Bullshit. I've been in the military. I know what advisors are doing. And most of those guys are even more lethal than your basic soldier in terms of killing. And they're there for more than just advising, folks. But it talked about how he had to back off from the military and how the generals were really upset with him because he was not going and pushing their agenda of us, the empire, and pushing our control, our philosophies onto others via war and running this global empire that we had. And it got me thinking, and it got me nervous because Trump surrounds himself around all these generals. At the time, there was a doctrine, and I can't remember it for the life of me, which I was not familiar about, and I think they covered it in Dr. Strangelove. I'm not sure. But there's basically a doctrine that's been established where if our military cannot get in communication with the president, they have the ability to push the button on a nuclear weapon. And we had gotten to almost that level during the Cuban crisis, which I was not aware of. I was not aware of the fact that after the whole Cuban crisis that they came out, Khrushchev and that said, hey, we actually had hundreds of thousands of Russians on the ground there, and I believe over 100 ballistic missiles, nuclear missiles and stuff, which is contrary to what they tell you. They basically say, oh, they weren't set up, they couldn't have been able to use them. Now, could Khrushchev be lying? He could be, but you never know. You don't know who's being honest, especially with the next issue, the intelligence community. You know, if you just watch MSM and you don't listen, read, or study any other options, any other news out there, you would think that what Trump did with Putin was a bad thing. And first of all presidents should meet with the president of Russia, whoever it is at the time. You know, Kennedy met with Khrushchev, Roosevelt, Truman. They met with Stalin. You got to have an open relationship with these guys, and you need it, and it proved it was needed with Kennedy to prevent a nuclear war, which we came very, very, very close to over Cuba, guys. And so that is amazing. And what's happened is these extreme elements, the liberals, and unfortunately I think they're taking a lot of the Democrats and pushing them to that extreme side. And you see that with this communist winning up in New York. And you see it with in California, not with them not backing the Democratic Party, not wanting to back Pelosi. That came out yesterday. Because they want to go to this more extreme element. And it's going to hurt that party, and I don't know why they would do it. And I'm not in any party. I lean to it, right? But I'm not in any party. And I think that's bad for the Democrats. But here's the issue, folks. They've been pushing that agenda, this whole Russian thing. So we spent millions upon millions of dollars and found out there was nothing. And what it's caused is for Trump to take a harder line on Russia, like putting the missile batteries and stuff in the Ukraine, not meet with Russia, and sour our relations for the past couple of years. He finally got past that and meets with them. Then he talks about not trusting our intelligence community. And I got to tell you, folks, he backtracked from that because he's getting so much pressure because MSM controls all the airwaves. I wouldn't control our intelligence community. Kennedy didn't trust our intelligence community. There was a lot of issues after Bay of Pigs, and when he went back on there was a lot of issues. He did not trust them. He did not trust the generals. He did not trust the intelligence community. And we shouldn't. You had Clapper lie before the Congress. It's been past 5 years. They can't do anything because they sat in their hands. We all know how bad, God, what's his name is? The tall guy, FBI. I can't think of his name right now. Amazing. Starts with a C. What is his name? Oh, it'll hit me as I go through how bad and how guilty he was. If you listen to MSM, you call me. You won't believe it, but if you go through all the documentations that is out there, you will come to the understanding that our intelligence community is not honest. They're not out for our best interests, and that they actually control the country. I truly believe that they have so much information on all these politicians, and that's why you don't see any action. Why, you don't hear anything about Mueller bringing the uranium to the Russians to have them check it. Did you guys catch during Putin's comments? He said, "I want to know where my $400 billion went that we had to send over to the Clinton Foundation." MSM hasn't picked that up at all, and yet. If you don't listen to the press conference, which I'd say about 99% of the Americans didn't, they wouldn't have heard that. And they would have just heard the propaganda that's being pushed out by the MSM. And ever since I took on this scoop thing, I don't trust anything the MSM says. I don't trust anything government says. I don't trust anything that the our intelligence community says. And it's scary. I tell you what, it's scary, folks. When I sit out there and I watch some of the stuff I see, I don't know how many of you guys watched the committee meeting yesterday where they were pushing to get sites shut down because they deem them fake news, because it's not in line with what they want pushed out. Tucker Carlson had some congressman, Democrat, on there, and he was basically saying that Trump should be impeached because he questioned the storyline. He questioned the narrative. Tucker kept pushing him, saying, what are you talking about? What? And he kept giving bullcrap stories. I tell you what, if you have a chance, go back and watch Tucker Carlson yesterday. It was amazing. And it's scary. You know, I was sitting here and I was hearing all this news and seeing all this news yesterday, and all I could think is, God, our country is so fucked. And it's been that way. We just haven't noticed. And what's making it worse is that it's being brought to everyone's attention with so 24/7, with other options besides MSM, and with individuals like Trump bringing it out. And I'm not a Trump mega guy. I think Trump's got some major issues, but then I think he does a lot of good too. And I think you got to have that open mind to call both. But you guys have to realize, as the Americans, that we are controlled by the intelligence community. They are running our government. They are running our government. And so many of these politicians have bought into it over fear, over blackmail. I don't know what the issues are. This is an element, the CIA, that, you know, they were around 1900s, but officially CIA was born out of the NSA, in 49 when Truman signed the NSA Act in. Ever since then, ever since Truman should go down in history as one of the worst presidents. Not just because of nuclear debacle where he said, I want unconditional surrender by the Japanese, or I'm dropping the bombs, or I'm coming in. We want unconditional surrender. The Japanese were ready to surrender. They were ready to surrender if their emperor could stay in place. We said, no, it's not going to happen. And guess what? We ended up bombing their asses, killing thousands, if not millions of people years later, if you look at the fallout. Putting the world on global edge for years to come with the nuclear buildup, when we didn't have to do anything. And guess what? After that nuclear bomb, the one thing that held us back from accepting the surrender was that the emperor stayed in place. Guess what? We allowed him to stay in place. Amazingly enough. And then Truman decided to take this doctrine where he goes out, becomes a world empire, threatening everybody with the nuclear arsenal. Next thing you know, Russia builds up their nuclear arsenal. I think from the first bomb and when Ike left, after Truman, Ike, and I think primarily under Ike. Under Ike, I believe the number is we went from 1,000 nuclear bombs to 2,200. He fed into the military-industrial war complex. And I was amazed when I listened to that at how much he was a part of that machinery. And that shouldn't have been, because he was a general, right? He was in World War II. He's part of the problem. And what amazes me is, and I put it up before, and maybe I should have had it rolling on this video here but this is an interesting speech, which maybe I'll play at the end here. I'll try to set it up. It's by Martin Luther King. Yeah, I'll play it at the end of this rant. It was very interesting what he had to say in there. But the whole industrial war complex. You know, when I heard that speech, I used to think, okay, Ike, yeah, he was against it. He was warning us about them, and we should have paid attention, although we didn't years after. Kennedy tried to pull away from them. Lyndon Johnson, 2 days after Kennedy's death, went right back into the war machine pattern, and he said, hey, Vietnam, here we come. Laos, all those guys. Because right at that time when Kennedy died, the generals were trying to push him to go into Laos, and he said, no, I'm not going to do it. But look at that. The nuclear bomb just went off. The build up there. But this documentary is real interesting, and you guys should watch it. You look at stuff like the Gulf of Tonkin, where they said, "Oh, we were attacked by Baba" as a preface to going to Vietnam. No, that wasn't it. That was all staged. Nothing happened there, and we should have never went into Vietnam. But the generals wanted it. And so we went in there. Johnson wanted it. All these guys wanted it. There was a saying that, Napoleon came out with. History is built upon lies. If you look at different places, like North Korea. North Korea tells their people that Yeah, I don't know. Siri's, my phone is listening to me. The intelligence community is on to me. They heard me talking about them. If you listen to, who is it? What was I going to say? Oh, North Korea. They believe that their history is that we invaded them, they fought us back, and won the war. The American history, which I think is more accurate, is that they attacked us. They wanted a reunification. But what we don't know, what many don't know, is that we had a South Korean leader that we put in place there that was agitating the situation, which prompted the North Korean, pissed him off even more, the leader then, which helped to push him, make up his mind to push into South Korea. Plus, he thought he had the assurances of the Soviet Union and China and all that stuff. So then he pushes in. We push him back. China said, oh, you're getting too close to our border. So China came in and pushed us back. We decided to stop at the 38th parallel. Life was good, right? Not really. And now we're trying to resolve that. That's still an issue going on. Even if you look at governments, everyone's all pissed. Oh, Russia, they interfered in our election, which I don't know if they did or they didn't. It's George Soros' company runs most of those machines. Today I put out something about how the machines can basically have access remotely and how you can get into them. I think it was Venezuela. They're known for changing them with those same exact machines. I digress. I go back to the point that I was trying to make. Everyone is upset that Russia got into our election. Russia spies on us. Russia does this and then Russia does that. We do it all. We've done it all throughout our history. Of course Russia's doing all that, just like we are. Ukraine. It amazes me. People still don't know it because they only watch local MSM. When I was doing a lot more broadcasts on national stuff, I was covering this like crazy a few years ago, where the assistant ambassador, what was her name? Newman, was caught on phone talking about funneling billions of dollars into the Ukraine resistance, and talking about the new power that they wanted in place to run the government. We basically fomented that whole crisis, and we did it because the Ukrainian government that was in charge was pro-Russian. They decided not to go with the EU. That's when we started funneling money in there. We started doing the regime change and changing the government, pushing to change the government. And then we're all crying. Everyone's bitching. Oh, Russia had troops in the Ukraine. Nobody talks about the agreement. I think it was in 1995 where they were allowed to have something like 20, 30,000 troops in the Ukraine. That never gets mentioned. Nothing gets mentioned that Crimea has essentially been a part of the Russia for as far back as I can remember. 1800s, I think it's always been a part of Russia essentially. But everyone says, oh, that's a preface for building up our army. They're taking over Crimea. And I guess the whole point of this rant, this report is, you can't just listen to what the propaganda is that the MSM pushes out. If you notice, it's all the same. Listen, it's all the same. Some aren't the same, the Tucker Carlsons of the world. I got to go to alternative media. Also, fortunately, I understand Italian enough so I can watch Italian news. I'll watch all kinds of news out there. And you'll learn that what we're being fed here is essentially a lot of propaganda that I think the intelligence community feeds to the press. It was funny, too. They talked about how the intelligence community is known for feeding stories to the press to push their narrative out there. Very interesting, especially with the revelations with Comey pressing stuff out to the press. So, although I know a lot of you guys hate Trump, there's a lot of Trump haters out there. I get it. You're not happy. All right? I understand. Do your own research, though, and you may not think he's that bad. You may think he's an idiot, a jerk, but a lot of his initiatives you may not think were that bad. You may realize that he's not a Nazi, that if you support Trump, you're not a Nazi. Especially if you go back and research what Nazi means, where the terminology came from, and all that good stuff. But I'm concerned. I'm concerned about where our society is going. concerned about our society as a whole. And what I wanted to do, I want to pull up, how can I do this? I'm going to go to a video. I know I can do it. Hold on one second. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up that video so you can listen to it. And it's pretty good. It's with Martin Luther King, and he's giving a speech, and it's that video that you've been seeing rolling over here. And basically, it's going to play, and I may come back on and end it right there. I may not. So hold on one second. I hate when that happens. All right, and let's see. Let's get you to the screen. Doing this as a one-man operation sometimes can be a bit of a bitch. I tell you what. Let's see. We're gonna do right here. All right, so this is Martin Luther King. It goes along with this roll that you've been seeing playing in the background. I got it playing up to the right of me, so I'll stay on the screen, I guess it appears. And we're gonna go ahead and flip over to that now.
As I have walked among the desperate, rejected, and angry young men, I have told them that Molotov cocktails and rifles would not solve their problems, but they ask, and rightly so, what about Vietnam? If America's soul becomes totally poisoned, part of the autopsy must read Vietnam, a nation that continues year after year spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. This need to maintain social stability for our investments accounts for the counter-revolutionary action of American forces in Guatemala. It tells why American helicopters are being used against guerrillas in Cambodia, and why American napalm and Green Beret forces have already been active against rebels in Peru. They ask if our own nation wasn't using massive doses of violence to solve its problems, to bring about the changes it wanted. Their questions hit home, and I knew that I could never again raise my voice against the violence of the oppressed in the ghettos without having first spoken clearly to the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government.
Okay, so there you go. I wish I would have had my industrial war complex video ready to go with Ike Eisenhower. Again, just amazed at how he told us to all beware of the industrial war complex, military complex. Yet he is known for being one of the primary source to pushing us to such great extreme levels of armament and everything all around, and building up that military industrial complex. Yet he warned us to be aware of him. Real crazy. He also pushed Kennedy for Laos and everything else. So, all right, everyone, this has been Francesco Abbruzzino with the Uncensored Report.